My name is Hiral Patel. I work at Yahoo for the Search and Native Ads platform. I'm a senior principal architect and director of engineering there. Sure, that's a funny story actually. Back in 2010, I used to work at a startup on the first floor of the Twitter building. And one of my engineers on the team was always talking about how Twitter uses Scala. And coming from the Java world, I didn't really care at the time. Over time, he convinced me to just take a look at it, and we built a REST API using Scala. And more or less, if it wasn't for him, I would have never been introduced to Scala. And more or less, if it wasn't for Twitter, he would have never cared about Scala. He was a big fan of Twitter. And so that's how I got introduced to it. It took me a long time to start using Scala like most Scala programmers do, because I came from a Java world. So mutable state, normal thing. So I wrote a lot of my Scala code for the first year like I would write my Java code. I didn't really care to use folds or maps or flat maps. Mostly, the only thing I really liked to use was options. Not having to deal with nulls was like the best thing ever, right? So use options everywhere, and that alone solved a lot of my problems, right? So I didn't have to do anything. And so over the next 2 years, I started attending these Scala conferences, a lot of them actually set up by Alexei in the Bay. And that's how I got more into the functional aspects of Scala, and then also the distributed systems world using Akka and the frameworks like Play Framework and Lyft. That's my journey through Scala so far. The ideal stack would probably be, for my use case, for the REST APIs we have, would probably be a Play Framework app or a Finagle API. What we currently have is more or less a Java servlet implementation using Spring Framework, right? And although we use most of our Scala libraries that we built in Spring, it would be nice to actually just use Scala everywhere. I'm looking forward to actually chatting with Peter from Cake Solutions. I've been following his Scala updates blog for a long time, before I think he took it over. And I think that's probably been my single source of information about all the new Scala projects and all the updates in the Scala world for a long time now. I'm not a huge fan or user of Twitter, so I get most of my updates from their blog, and so it's good to see him here and talk to him and hear about what things that they're working on.